Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of my podcast. Today's podcast is entitled The Story of Two Wolves. And as usual, I will begin this podcast with a quote. Any fool can know. The point is to understand. And that's a quote by Albert Einstein. I know I've used that quote before in previous episodes, but especially in reference to this specific episode, it's more relevant than ever, I feel, in my life. The story of two wolves is something that after learning about it, I commonly refer to it in everyday life. It was a staple of my life, and it was something that I commonly referred to as to explaining situations and how to get through things, and my explanation for things that were occurring in my life. Being able to rationalize, the reason that this is happening is because, I'm doing this or I'm doing that, because having an understanding is what helps us to maneuver better in life. So you can know something on its surface, but true comprehension, being able to truly utilize what you learn, is by having a deep understanding of it. And I heard this story before in passing, but not in passing. I heard what I thought was the entirety of the story, but it was just, a tidbit, a small fraction of what the actual story had to offer. So I knew the story, but I didn't have a complete understanding of it. So like I said, the above quote applies to my learning experience because compared to the actuality of the lesson taught by the story of the two wolves, I was only scratching the surface. So I thought that the story basically went in a nutshell. There are two wolves within us, and they're basically always fighting for control. There's a good wolf and a bad wolf. And whichever wolf wins is the one that you feed the most. So if you feed, good habits, if you're disciplined, if you wake up and do things even if you don't feel like them, if you, are consistent and doing stuff, if you persevere and, all those good qualities, if you feed that wolf, then that's the wolf that wins. And likewise, if you feed the negative habits, the dishonesty, the lack of effort, the lack of trying, the lack of discipline, the demotivation, not being driven, not being focused, all of those, being lazy, all of those habits that are opposed to our success, that create negativity in our lives, then that's what we're going to have by choice, is a negative life. So I thought that was the story of the wolves. Of course, it's a little bit longer than that, but that's the gist of the story that I thought, was the two wolves, the story of the two wolves. And it was a lesson that I was teaching my daughter. We were riding in the car, my daughters, we were riding in the car, and I was teaching them the story of the two wolves. I was like, same thing I'm just sharing with y'all. We have two wolves in our lives. They're fighting for control, they're fighting for power, and the one that wins is the one that we give the most attention to, the one that we feed on a daily basis, So you want to constantly be feeding the good wolf. You want to constantly be doing things that are going to help you progress through life, constantly doing things that help you maneuver through life in a way that you can avoid as many roadblocks as possible, because there's already going to be roadblocks. So you don't want to hinder yourself. You don't want to do anything that would make things harder than they have to be. I was trying to explain that in much simpler terms to my daughters. And then I began to think about it, think about everything that I've learned throughout, my life, especially creating this podcast, how I've been diving deeper into some of the knowledge that I've acquired, some of the research that I've acquired. And it just didn't sit right with me. I believe it's good knowledge is very impactful and it's very true, but I felt that there was something more, like I was missing out on the other half of the story, or the more complete half of the story, because here lately I've been finding out some of the commonly used sayings in our language or in casual conversation that we may use are not the entirety of the situation or the entirety of the quote. Like, for instance, one that I just found out that I've been using wrong my whole life is blood is thicker than water. Well, the real quote is not blood that's thicker than water. It's the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. So that's a quote that we've been using wrong our entire lives, and I'm just finding that out. And it was the kind of the same thing with this as well. And once I did some research, I found out that what I had learned as the story of the two wolves was only like the first paragraph of the actual story of the two wolves. It's really a Cherokee elder teaching his grandson a life lesson. And in reading that, wherever I read it, I can't remember at this point in time, but I only read like a little bit or excerpt from that poem. It wasn't the poem in its entirety or the lesson in its entirety. So I did some research, I did some digging, and I was able to find the actual full poem, full lesson in its entirety. And when I read it, it just clicked with me. I was like, that makes sense. That makes so much sense because, life is about balance. Life is about understanding. Life is about good and evil, bad and not so good. Like it operates on a scale. It's not just one or the other. It's not black and white. It's not good or bad. There's a scale. And as we go through life, we kind of ride that scale. Kind of like with the chakras. How we have the bottom chakra is red, and then it goes up to a blue chakra, the crown chakra, and the point of the chakras is you clear each one as you go up, and you try to attain a level of understanding, a level of purity, a level of control that you have over yourself, your emotions, and in turn that allows you to have an impact on the world outside of you. But it's a spectrum. You're not gonna be able to attain the highest level of self. Some days you're gonna fall prey to your flesh. You're gonna fall prey to your a nature that is below what you need in order to succeed in life. And it's not saying that that's a bad thing. Everybody falls short, everybody fails, but nobody's perfect. We ride a scale throughout our lives, closer to attaining wholeness and oneness, and like actualizing who we are meant to be and what we are meant to do. And then sometimes we fall below that, and we fall prey to addiction and bad thoughts and negativity and stuff that just might happen in life. So the first saying that I thought was the full poem really reflects the whole black and white construct, and that's why it really didn't sit well with me, because I found out, especially throughout my life, that life does not operate in a black and white fashion. There's shades of gray, and the lesson is in its entirety reflects that there are shades of gray, that the world does not operate in a black and white fashion. And just like the principle of polarity and all the other things that we've talked about, yin and yang, and they're that opposite nature of whatever you're facing creates balance. So if you're like, this is something I learned as well. I've really been kind of diving into this in my life. So I was sitting outside, and usually one of the things I always write down I'm grateful for in my morning routine is I'm grateful for a beautiful day. Well, I was looking outside, and as I was looking on the horizon, I saw some clouds. And my first thought, because that's how we're trained as we grow up, is that today's going to be a messy day. Today's going to be rainy, whatever you want to describe the day as. But then I thought to myself, it could still be a beautiful day, because when that rain comes, it's going to provide nourishment for the grass. It's going to cool things off. And the rainstorms can be beautiful, they can be pretty, so it could still be a beautiful day. It's just beautiful in a different way. And then that just lessons about perspective and mindset and the way we look at things, that it just all started pouring in. So it was just another lesson on perspective and balance. You can't have the sunshine without the rain. You can't have the good without the bad. So we need both in our lives in order to function in a healthy, balanced way. So what I did was, for the duration of the podcast, I actually included the whole story in its entirety of the two wolves. And I hope that is something that's impactful in your life. I will attach the link for this story in the show notes so that you can click on it and then you can see it for yourself, because I know I have a bad microphone and sometimes words kind of slur together. I'm working on that. Thank you for following me. I appreciate it. But without further delay, here's the story of the two wolves. An old Cherokee son is teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside me, he said to the boy. It is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. He continued. The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside you, and inside every other person too. The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, which wolf will win? The old Cherokee simply replied, if you feed them right, they both win. You see, if I only choose to feed the white wolf, the black one will be hiding around every corner, waiting for me to become distracted or weak and jump to get the attention he craves. He will always be angry and always fighting the white wolf. But if I acknowledged him, he is happy, and the white wolf is happy, and we all win. For the black wolf has many qualities: tenacity, courage, fearlessness, strong-willed, and great strategic thinking that I have need of at times, and that the white wolf lacks. But the white wolf has compassion, caring, strength, and the ability to recognize what is in the best interest of us all. You see, son, the white wolf needs the black wolf at his side. To feed only one would starve the other, and they will become uncontrollable. To feed and care for both means they will serve you well and do nothing that is not a part of something greater, something good, something of life. Feed them both, and there will be no more internal struggle for your attention. And when there is no battle inside you, you can listen to the voices of deeper knowing that will guide you in choosing what is right in every circumstance. Peace, my son, is the Cherokee mission in life. A man or a woman has peace. A man or a woman who has peace inside has everything. A man or a woman who is pulled apart by war inside him or her has nothing. How you choose to interact with the opposing forces within you will determine your life. Starve one or the other, or guide them both. I mean, wow, that's just an awesome story. I love that story. And I love the first story of the two wolves that I had found, but I love this one even more so. I mean, it just explains everything. It's the perfect lesson about balance. We can't have one without the other. You can't have good without bad. You can't have joy without pain. You can't have, courage without fear. Because courage is having fear, but doing what you need to do anyways. It's all about balance. Life is all about balance. You can't, once you even have a good thing to excess, it becomes a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you have too much sugar in your diet, a little sugar here and there might be good for you, or it might be okay to ingest. But if you have too much sugar, then it turns into other issues. If you work out, it's good for your body. But if you work out without taking a break, without having due rest or taking days off, then that could cause you to get injuries just as much as not working out. Life is always about balance, having that healthy balance. And like they said in the end, once you have a healthy internal environment, you're at peace. Once you have peace within yourself, then we can have peace outside of ourselves. Become the change that you desire to see in the world. Instead of trying so hard and focusing so hard on changing everything that's wrong with the world, we need to start with ourselves And once we create peace and once we have balance within ourselves, then we can go out into the world and help the rest of the world obtain that peace. But it has to start with inside of us, because our internal environment reflects or manifests in our external environment. So if your internal environment is indecisive and has all those negative emotions without the balance of having those good emotions, then your external environment is going to be largely negative. So we need to focus on the things that, bring us joy, bring us happiness, bring us fulfillment. But we also need to recognize that, like, when we get down on ourselves, when we have those bad days, it's duality, it's yin and yang, it's part of the journey, and we got to fall in love with the process. Not life has taught us, well, in America, because that's the only experience I have, life has taught me to be goal oriented, in the sense that I want to get from A to B, and it's not so much enjoying the journey in between, but I'm at A, I want to get to B, this is what I got to do to get to B, and if I follow this path, I should be successful. It doesn't matter if I'm happy in between, I'll be happy when I get there. And some things you do, you're going to have to do regardless of whether you feel like doing it or not, but we got to fall in love with the process.